Hi, recently we made a film that was all about using a melody and working out which chords might fit with that melody. It's always possible you might want to go about the task the other way round. So what happens if you found some chords that you like and then you're struggling to find a melody that fits with them? Well, let's take a simple example, just a 4-bar phrase. We're going to be in the key of G major, and I'm going to use this chord scheme. So I've come up with chord 1, otherwise known as a chord of G, followed by chord 4, otherwise known as a chord of C, followed by chord 5, otherwise known as a chord of D, followed by chord 1 again, or a chord of G. And just so I know what the notes are that lie inside those chords, I've just written them down here. So chord 1 has got G, B and D in it because it always has a root, a note that's 3 notes above the root, and a note that's 5 notes above the root. So G, B, D is the G chord, or the chord 1. Chord 4, or the C chord, a chord built on C in just the same way. C, 3 notes above it and 5 notes above it, so C, E, G. Then the chord 5, or the D chord, is D, F sharp, A. Why is it F sharp? Because we're in G major and there's an F sharp there in the key. So we need to make sure we're using F sharp and not F natural. Otherwise there'll be a kind of clash of key there. And then we're coming back to this chord 1, this G chord that we had earlier on. So if I get these chords down and I want to write a melody that's based on those, I can use any of the notes that belong to the chord. So if I put chord 1 down, I can use G, B or D. So that gives me a number of options. So what could I do? I could go G, B, D, or I could go D, B, G, or I could go B, D, G, or I could go D, G, B. So you see lots of options that we could do there. And I've just got to make sure the rhythm fits with a bar because I've got 3 beats in each bar. So just let's keep this simple for the time being. Say I decide that I'm going to go G, B and then D. Well, I've got a melody that fits with that chord. So that's great, isn't it? Now, if I go on to the next bar, I've got this chord 4, or a chord of C. So I need to use the C, E, G notes. Well, I may not want to go G, B, D and then go C, E, G, because that would be the same kind of pattern twice, wouldn't it? And also I don't want to have great big jumps between notes. You know, I don't want big leaps all over the place. So I could use those notes in a different kind of pattern. So how about in the second bar, I use them like this. I'm going to start with E at the top, partly because it's just 1 step above this D, and then I'll sort of come down the chord this time and maybe do that. So in the second bar now, I've got my chord 4, or my C chord, and I'm going to go E, C, G, and you can see how that kind of follows on from the first bar now. So that's beginning to sound all right, isn't it? Now, onto my D chord, or my chord 5. Well, I'm going to use these 3 notes again. So how about this time I put them in a different order? I'm using F sharp next door to G, so there's not too much of a leap there. So we don't have little hiccups in the line between every chord change. But this time I'm going to go up to A and down to D. And that will kind of work quite happily. Here's my chord 5, my D chord. And I'm going F sharp, A, D. And then I'm coming back to my chord 1 for G. When you get to the end of a piece or the end of a musical phrase, you don't always want to have lots of notes. So sometimes you just want to stop. So I could decide here, I'm just going to fill up the last bar with a G like this. Now that would then give me the skeleton of a melody that would work fine with these chords. Slightly boring on the rhythm because there's lots of crotchets going on here, so I could just now spruce it up a little bit. One thing I can do is to use things called passing notes. So G and B belong to the chord, but I could slip in the note in between like this. If you use a passing note, it must pass by step. So don't go G, A and then jump up to D or something. If you've got G and B and you want to put the note that comes between them, so we're going by step, G, A, B, that's fine. You could put another one in if you wanted to at this point. We could have another passing note there. I'm just changing the stem direction now for reasons that many people will know about, but there's just rules about which direction the stem should go in. Don't worry about them here if that's not something you're into. But then that spruces up the first bar. I could change the rhythm in the second bar a little bit, so I've got something slightly different going on there. Maybe I could add another passing note in here, because you see I've got F sharp and A. I could put a G in between, and then that just makes the melody a bit more interesting. What have I got now? And I could, of course, do something slightly more interesting with those chords just by using these notes in some kind of accompanying thing that's not just clonking chords like that. So there we are, a quick burst in how you can go about composing a melody from a chord scheme that you've already thought of. So good luck, have fun with that.